Hello scrappers and planet lovers, Tin Man here with another video. So I've recently received a number of questions and comments, not only from beginner scrappers, but also fellow scrappers, people asking me common places that I like to find copper, but other people expressing their frustrations of faux copper, if you will, or false copper. Things that look to be copper, but in fact, once they start examining it further and scratching it, it turns out to be aluminum. And for some people that have been scrapping for years, they have actually given up on certain common appliances, electronics that they used to get copper out of because they, a lot of the times, have been replaced with more modern, cheaper, and aluminum windings instead. So what I want to do today is not only address some of those common places I like to find copper, do want to do a small little game as well. As you can see behind me, I have a number of different windings. Some are copper, some are not. The interesting thing about copper is if in fact it is copper, copper is, in the scrap world, our scrapper's gold. It continues to stay at an excellent price. And in my opinion, it will continue to rise in the future, which is great. But there are a lot of windings here that come in different colors, and some of them are definitely made to look like copper, but are not. So I'm going to test some people's knowledge out there, see if you can guess which ones are copper and which ones aren't, to help you obviously separate it, identify it, maximize your profit, and make sure you keep it separate. If you go in with a mixed load of copper and aluminum, you are going to be downgraded tremendously. So I don't want to see fellow scrappers working as hard as they do trying to separate it or assume that it's copper and only have a big disappointment when they get to the scrapyard. So here we go. The first one I do want to identify is copper windings that come out of microwaves. And the reason I want to talk about microwaves first is because I did have a fellow scrapper that says he no longer picks them up, he just drives right by them, because in his opinion, a lot of them have now been replaced with transformers that have aluminum winding instead of copper. And while I agree with that scrapper, there are a lot of them that do have aluminum. You definitely don't want to assume and drive by it, because there are a lot of great pieces of copper in microwaves, and microwaves are one of the most common things I find. So a couple different places to find the copper in microwaves, as that gentleman was talking about. Your transformers, there is always going to be a very large transformer inside, and these as is are actually 10 pounds. I have a huge one right here. This one is actually 15 pounds, and as you can see, the windings are different colors inside. These are actually some that come out of other transformers from that. And again, these transformers, you do not want to assume, yes, a lot of the older models are mainly copper, but there are still modern ones that use copper as well. And these types of transformers are always going to have two different spools, and you want to check both of them. Sometimes these transformers will be copper, which is unbelievable because it's about 2.5 pounds of copper. Some of them will be aluminum, copper, some of them aluminum, copper, and some of them aluminum. And even transformers now, at one point you could put them all as transformer weight, which was about 10 to 15 cents a pound. However, scrapyards now, given the high price of copper, are starting to separate them as well. If these two spools were aluminum, if I scratched them and they revealed a metallic look underneath, the scrapyards are only giving for these, now it's a separate category, aluminum transformers, and these are actually going to be 7 cents a pound. So in my opinion, if I scratch these both and they both aluminum, I actually don't even throw them into my aluminum transformer bin. I throw them into my tin, because tin right now is going for 10 to 12 cents a pound. So I'm going to get more money doing nothing and putting this into tin. So definitely something you want to look at. But again, don't ever assume that they are aluminum. You definitely want to do the scratch test. So very easy to do. A file, scratch this one. You can see that that is metallic. But if I turn this one over, I'm going to look very quickly. I haven't even looked at this one yet, so I want to make sure I put safety glasses on, I peel this up. Okay, there, make sure I get the tape. Gonna scratch this one. Okay, so I can see the white underneath as well of that tape. So both of these are gonna be aluminum. So this is gonna go, as I said, instead of my a transformer aluminum bin winding, I'm gonna put it in my tin. As I said, 10 pounds right here. Here are some other examples, as I said, to show you different ones. I did take these out for this experiment. You can see obviously different colors. So I'm gonna scratch all 4 of these. Which ones do you think are aluminum? We got number 1 here. Yes or no? And scratch it. You can see that is aluminum, unfortunately. And this does not weigh much. So that's number 1, aluminum. Aluminum, there's my dark color. But if you look, dark color. Let's see this one. Look at that. That is copper. And as I said, this actually weighs 1 pound, 1 ounce, I believe. So currently this would be number, I'm looking at the gauge here, the thickness of this. This would be, because it's got the tape and stuff on it right now, I would have to throw this into my number 2. And currently right now it's going for about $4.68 a pound Canadian in London, Ontario. If I was to clean the glue off, and it's going to be hard to do to take all of it off, the gauge is thicker than 16 gauge or so I could, or 14 gauge, so I probably could throw this winding into my number 1. But again, very difficult to get this glue off and stuff, so I'm just gonna leave it and get 10 cents less. Here is another one. Scratch this one. That is aluminum, okay? Gonna look at that big mother load here. Look at this one again. Again, don't want to assume. That is copper. And underneath here, that too is copper. So this one came out of a nice big size microwave. This thing is extremely heavy, as I said, 15 pounds. Very easy to take these apart. I do have a separate video showing how to take the metal off of that, a separate video on transformers. So if you're interested, check that out. Here are some other ones. Different color again. Copper. This one is smaller winding, but it too is copper. So some great copper here. Don't ever assume. And as I said, giving you or an example, this one again too has, there it is, there's the copper. This came out of a modern one. And the interesting thing about this one is, this one, as you can see, I've already scratched it, is aluminum. But underneath here, this one you can see just right there, glistening. This is copper. So again, in my opinion, don't assume. Definitely microwaves are worth their weight, especially because the outer shell is tin. The other nice thing about your microwaves is your magnetron inside of there. You have to be careful with these. I do have a video showing you how to separate these. But the inner core here, look at that nice thing. Doesn't look like copper. But if I scratch this, there you go. Every microwave is going to have a magnetron in it and always a copper core on that. So that is going to be some nice copper. Your motor, you have several motors on in your microwave. This is your, I think, cooling fan. This is always going to have a nice spool of copper. And I have not found any of these to be aluminum, even though they are modern microwaves. So definitely, there is definitely a spool of number 2 copper. It adds up. As well, your little turntable, the plate motor underneath the microwave, these things also have a small little spool of copper. And again, these two, I have yet to find aluminum windings, and I have taken apart hundreds of microwaves. So there is always going to be copper inside of your microwaves, regardless if it's a transformer or not. As well, there are other types of transformers that you will find while scrapping. Smaller ones like this that come off of electronics, smaller transformers like this. These two, you do have to check them. And the reason I'm bringing up these is because I want to look at some of the windings that came out of a transformer I took apart yesterday. So here is some green. Here is some of the gold color, but again, that copper clean color that almost looks like Bare Bright. You can't assume that it is copper. You do have to check it, but I'm gonna show you this strand here to see if it is copper or not. What do you think? So I'm gonna scratch it. And as you can see, the paint or the coating is coming off. That is actually copper. So this is all gonna be number 2 copper. Here is a piece of red. This did come out of, oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna apologize. Take that back. This did come out of a microwave fan. Again, sorry, can't assume. So do have 2 examples here. I do have, and I don't often find them as red strand, but they do exist. This one is your darker color. Gonna scratch this. So that is copper, which is great. This is off of a dishwasher, but I'm just gonna show it again. Want to make sure I scratch it. So there is a nice copper color. This one, however, gonna look at your red. You can see the glisten. That is actually aluminum. So I'm just gonna leave this, and I have 2 choices with this. I can take the spool, once I've already removed it, I could take the metal out of here. This steel is gonna go into my tin shred pile right there. It's a nice piece of tin. This aluminum winding, I could leave it on for the weight, or I do have a separate pile for aluminum windings, stuff like this if I've gone through it and I haven't done the check. This too is going to be out of different little strands of transformers. Look at the color of this, want to check it. There you go, that is a metallic color as well. Here is another one that came out of a small motor. And that too is going to be metallic, so this too is aluminum. So even though this is not very heavy, I do put this in a separate bag. I let it grow, and I will just bring this in as coated aluminum. It's about 25-30 cents a pound, but I do not take it out of my motors and windings if I see it first. It will only be if I'm trying to get at something else that I will actually take it apart to get to. As well as, for example, as I said, with windings like this, the only time I will open up transformers is if one of them is copper, one of them is aluminum, or educational purposes, for example, like this video. But I will never open a transformer if it is aluminum and aluminum. It's not worth my grinding disc, and it's not worth my time. I might as well get the tin shred price. Okay. As well, on your circuit board, speaking of, you do have different color windings as well. You do want to do the scratch test. These I always love. These are like my copper donuts. Find these on all types of circuit boards. And you can see inside of it, that is copper. This one too, if I scratch it. Okay, you can see that is copper. Circuit boards for me, find them all the time, electronics, appliances, and where I take my circuit boards, it is not worth the money from circuit boards if I bring them in for weight price. All my circuit boards, does not matter what is on them, I'm gonna get about 5 to 10 cents a pound. So my opinion, these types of items, so much better taking them off, putting them into number 2 copper, getting a lot more for it. And I still, once I take these off, I still bring the rest of my circuit board in and get the copper price. This one right here, this comes out of, next topic, motors, vacuum cleaners. I had another person say that they no longer get the vacuum cleaner because they believe that the motors have become replaced with aluminum. They do still get the large appliance cord. That is an awesome item. That gives you your 40% appliance wire at $1.67 a pound. There's usually about £1.50 there. But in my opinion, again, vacuum cleaners, just like microwaves, you can't assume. These are your different types of motors that come out of vacuum cleaners, depending on the size, obviously different size. And these two I get not only because they may have aluminum winding, but they also have aluminum here as well that's going to give me clean aluminum. And these are still 100% scrappable. I could bring this in, even if it was aluminum, and get motor price, which is about 10 to 15 cents a pound. And the reason these are different than your transformers is because the inner cores, just going to quickly see if I can pop one out. Once I remove the base here, these inner cores are still going to have copper in them. So the nice thing about these is scrapyards will still give you copper value for these vacuum motors. Again, you do want to check your scrapyards. Mine do, but again, it depends on price, depends on where you live. There are different rules for sure set out at different scrapyards, especially as well if you're a frequent visitor. But these are definitely, these inner cores are copper windings. And I am going to have an upcoming video showing you how to remove this copper. It is worth it in my opinion. It's easy to do. My dad showed me how to do that, so thanks Dad, but gonna definitely show that in an upcoming video. But inside of here, your motor here, you do again want to do the scratch test as well. You do want to get this clean aluminum because this is about 50 cents a pound. So just gonna pull that, scratch it, and I'm gonna show you. This is copper. This one right here, and again, you don't even have to, once you remove these out of the vacuum cleaners, have to even open it up to see. Here is my winding. If I scratch this, you can see that is aluminum. But again, as I said, I want to open it because there is aluminum inside of there, clean aluminum. I do have some brass on here as well, and the inner core that I want to take. So again, vacuum cleaners are another common item that I find, and in my opinion, there's still good copper on those regardless of age. So hopefully for you, you do start looking at that and not just pass it up. I do often see people that will just cut the cord. And even on scrap day, if I come along and I see someone has taken the cord, I still grab the rest of it. Unfortunately, there is a lot of plastic, but I know there's going to be a copper wire or a copper motor inside. As well, there is going to be some more copper wire that they don't get, as well as tin. So again, in my opinion, definitely get them, but you definitely want to check the windings. This one, there you go, that's a redder look, but inside, once I scratch it, that's copper as well. Okay, so vacuum cleaner cords. These ones you can see here are some dishwashers and washing machines. These two are copper bearing motors. Once I remove it, this is a really nice copper motor, or looks like a copper motor. This one comes out of, you get different fans, you get different motors from different electronics, but these two came out of washing machines I just recently took apart. And you can notice the colors right there. So, gonna do the scratch test. This one. And I'm gonna show you this one. Look at that color. Looks to be copper. Let's scratch it. Unfortunately, that is not copper. This one, however, right there, is copper. So both of them came out of, as I said, washing machines. You definitely want to check. Here is some excellent copper that I'm getting out of here. There's probably over 2 pounds of copper here. Very easy to take out. And as I said, I have videos on all of these things showing you how to take out the copper to maximize your profit. So please go check those videos out. But again, even though this is aluminum, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to throw this into my tin pile, get the price for this. This one, once I remove the copper, excellent source of number 2. I'm still going to throw the rest of this into my tin and 100% scrappable. So, as well as your different shells that come off of it. This too is going to have a little bit of copper inside. Where's that motor that I had somewhere? The inner core is going to have some cast aluminum, but definitely some more tin shred here. Circuit boards, sometimes you will find aluminum heat sinks on all circuit boards, electronics, but sometimes you will find some that look like this. So again, before I assume it's copper and get all excited, I do have to check. So just gonna scratch it. There you go, that is copper. Every one of these pieces here, gonna scratch that, show you that right there, you can see it. This is all copper, so pure copper right here. It's about 8 ounces, and this is gonna unfortunately, well not unfortunately, because it's still better than nothing, but gonna go into number 2, because it does have a lot of small cases to this. Some people will cut off these fingers. I will, because the base is definitely a nice thick, almost ingot, if you will. This I will throw in just my number 1 copper. Some people have also said, why don't you put it into a crucible and melt it? Unfortunately, melting copper or other items like aluminum into ingots, you have to check your scrapyard. Some scrapyards will not take them because they question the purity of them. Again, it depends on where you live, but definitely these I put into number 2. This is my number 1. But again, very beautiful piece. So sometimes you will find copper heat sinks or copper aluminum ones, depending. A lot of times in computer towers, you'll find them. So that is where I definitely find copper as well. I did want to show you, sorry, this one, it's been bothering me. This is, as I said, this came out of a compressor. Compressors, again, someone asked me about compressors from dehumidifier units and other items. Are the motors like this copper or not? And unfortunately, you do have to open it to check. I have only seen a few that have been aluminum. Most of them are copper. I do have a video showing you how to open compressors. They can be messy, so definitely want to check that out. But this always comes out of the black box on the side. You can see some red windings on this from a compressor. I am just going to use a hammer quickly just to break the plastic so I can get at that and do the scratch test. Okay, there we go. So, put on my safety glasses to make sure. So here is some red winding. Here's some little bit of tin shred as well. Want to show this. Look at that beautiful. That is a silver dot there. So this comes out. This is a relay box. Some beautiful silver right there as well on those little prongs. That little dot there is some silver that come out of these. So beautiful thing there. And I do collect that as well. These are going to be brass. But the winding here, again, I showed you that this red was aluminum. Checking it, you can see that that is copper. So here is some red disguised that is copper. So again, some number 2 copper. And the reason we call that number 2 as well is not only thickness, but also because it is coated with the red coating on it. So number 2, again, $4.68 a pound, I think. I can't complain. So that was a compressor. Again, other different types. Some of your transformers, going back to circuit boards, you can see there is tape on there. I did have a question about that. And yes, once I scratch it, you can see that that is copper. It's not a lot, but I definitely take it off there and I put it into my number 2 copper. It all adds up for sure. But inside of there is going to be, you can see the nice copper spool. That is going to be copper. This donut here, this actually came out of a subwoofer. Look at the size of this donut here. I call them donuts, money donuts, if you will. But some really nice look to be copper. Again, got to check it. Subwoofer's awesome. Look at that, beautiful copper. So this is all gonna, I'm gonna unwind it. There's about 3 layers on here, a lot of tape, but definitely worth it. And I almost actually passed this up. Someone on another video asked me, how did I know the difference between the subwoofer and just a speaker system? And in my opinion, it was just weight. I knew that the heavier it was, there's definitely gonna be some great components inside of it. So luckily I opened it. I almost passed it by. The only reason I took it because it had a beautiful painted aluminum heat sink. So I'm glad I didn't, but a subwoofer, great piece of copper there. And people have been eyeing this one. I got all excited when I saw this. This came out of a, what did it come out of? A washing machine that I recently picked up. I saw this through underneath the grill and I got all excited because look at all that beautiful winding. And I did remove this already, just magnet. This is a really nice piece of gonna be tin. There is a giant magnet ring or magnetic ring. People do put that out and leave it and bring it in separate at a scrapyard. I don't, I just leave it in because it is pretty messy. You can see it is magnetic, so some people also will use them for magnets for scrapping, but I have broken it. And want to show you this, as I said, would have loved this if this was copper, but one simple test, just showing you here, this is aluminum. So unfortunately, aluminum, this is just gonna go into my tin shred pile because this is all magnetic. It is a heavy piece. I do have one of these that is copper. Again, I don't find these types often, but washing machines, even though they could have aluminum, there's definitely a lot of great wire inside of them, some silver contacts and other items. So washing machine, again, all of these items I will say have money value. Might not be all copper, but the other thing, CRT TVs, these are your copper yokes. I call them money bells, different colors. I'm gonna scratch this one for you just to show you. There is copper, copper. I have yet to find any of these yokes that are aluminum, so CRTVs are an excellent thing. The only thing that can be aluminum is the black degaussing cable around the glass tube. Easy test, if you cut it inside of it, if it shows once you look at the strands a metallic look, then it's definitely gonna be aluminum, but if it shows copper, once you cut it inside, it's copper strands. So definitely excellent thing. So CRTVs are a common thing I also find right now because people are throwing them out and getting their flat screens. And again, gonna go quickly right back to your circuit boards. Circuit boards, this one, I purposely use this for an example. There are definitely some nice copper windings. But what I wanted to address right here are these prongs here. These always attach to an aluminum heatsink. This one, wanted to show it. This is very easy to identify. You can see there is the copper look to that. But these ones right here, these are plastic. Look at, you can see a nice solid piece of plastic. However, once I break into it, all I'm gonna do just for this experiment is to show you, just gonna take a pair of side cutters, just break the plastic a little bit. Watch this. And again, I don't do this for all of them, but I'm just doing this for educational purposes. There it shows you the metal inside of it. And if I scratch it, there are, right there, that is copper. So these are all gonna be number 2 copper. Every one of these that come off of circuit boards, as I said, regardless if they are coated with all plastic, because inside is copper. These ones obviously easier to recognize with the metal as well as the back here. So circuit boards, definitely some great copper. These prongs, a must to get, and very easy to check them, like I said, as a scratch test, but I have yet to see any that are not copper. Okay, so hopefully that answered those questions. If there's anything else, oh, this pipe I wanted to show, this too came off of a compressor, and I wanted to show that because as you can see, look at the different color of that. It does not look like your traditional copper, but let's see, is it copper or not? There you go. So that is copper. So you definitely want to not assume on anything. Scratch test is definitely the most conclusive test on all of it. Hopefully for those that are viewing this video and wondering, should I be picking up common or newer microwaves and newer vacuum cleaners? My opinion, yes. You never can tell from just picking it up on the curb. There's always great scrappable material that you can salvage out of there. And if by chance it is copper, you're definitely coming out a lot more ahead and maximizing your profit. Copper right now continues to stay high. As I said, your copper's gold. Thank you for those questions and comments. Please keep them coming. I hope that answered some items here. I am going to be working through these again. My garage is continuing to get full. People are continuing to throw stuff out, which is great. And summertime right now is when people are starting to get rid of these. I've actually found 3 dishwashers in the last week, 2 what are those, washing machines? Sorry, 3 dishwashers, 2 washing machines. So great items that I have to get out. And again, I'm about 60% copper motors from those, and obviously 40% aluminum. So you can never tell. Please, again, comment down below, like, share, subscribe. If you were watching this video today, all my Canadian friends, happy Canada Day. All my American viewers, happy 4th of July coming up. Stay well, happy scrapping. Tin Man out.